So by the time I got promoted, I was $7,000 in debt. And here's what I ask is Phil, like younger Phil, is that $7,000 worth the price of your drink? Abso-freaking-lutely. Then he texts me, he's like, hey, we're going to be a little late. It'll start at 7. Actually, Phil, it's going to be 7:30, and I don't care. So I show up at 7:30. The reason why this guy was late was because he was on a private jet and they had some weather trouble. And my first night doing extra work in OKC was helping Kevin Durant. I said, hey, I'm going to start my own thing. And people thought I was crazy because I walked away from everything that I worked for. At 35, associate head coach, 2 or 3 teams offering me NBA player development jobs, sitting behind the bench. And I really knew what God wanted me to do. I just finally decided to chase impact and significance and legacy over money and title and position. Dame and maybe one other NBA guy were like, you ain't working for another NBA team. You're going to train us full time. It's gotten way easier to make it to the NBA, but it's gotten way harder to stay in the NBA.
Today we have a very special guest, someone I hold a lot of respect for, Coach Phil Beckner. Coach Phil Beckner is a high-performance consultant, NBA player development coach, business owner. You know, he wears a lot of hats, but maybe we should start with, how we connected. We connected in person this past summer at the Formula Zero Elite Camp, one of the most fulfilling events I think I've attended over the past 12 months. You started that with Damian Lillard. Could you maybe just walk us through how you established that and maybe how it's grown over the past couple of years?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on. Super, super excited that, you chose me to do this. And then, like you said, I'm really grateful that we got connected through Formula Zero because you do a heck of a job at the grassroots and college level identifying prospects. And, obviously I reached out to you for some different names and different guys you thought would be a good fit. But, Dame and I, we always kind of had this kind of vision or dream. It was actually before COVID to help the next generation of players. We just saw so many talented guys out there, guys that were really, really good. They were making it to the NBA, but they weren't staying. Or you saw them on social media kind of acting out or doing stuff that wasn't really maybe of their nature or of their character. So obviously we've done it for 3 years now, had you out to Phoenix, had a lot of scouts out to Phoenix this year. And it was super fun just to help these players both on and off the court, challenge them skill-wise, but then really challenge them, with their minds and their hearts too. And like I said, that's where, super excited, be grateful and connected to you. Have you help us, start building some of these things, identifying prospects and, just helping the game moving forward.
Awesome. I appreciate the kind words. It was definitely something I truly enjoyed going to, preparing for, and after, and now tracking those players. A lot of them are, finding success. You mentioned you guys do calls where Damian Lillard and some of the coaches are able to mentor these players continuously. Like, this isn't just a 3 or 4 day event. This is a community. So how fulfilling is it for you seeing him in that mentorship role as you've kind of watched him evolve from 17 years old?
Yeah. Jacob, your timing of that question's perfect because we just did a call last night on Sunday in the middle of December. Dame plays the Bulls tomorrow, I believe. And he got on for an hour and did Q&A with some of the top high school kids and top college kids in the country. To be honest, I texted him. I told him, Dame, I don't think you realize how big of a deal this is, not only to the kids, but how many NBA GMs or scouts or college coaches appreciate and admire him, for doing that. Because Jacob, a lot of people know, but some people don't. I train him full time, but I've coached that dude since he was a freshman in college. Like when I started my career at Weber State, year 2, I was just this young coach, hardly knew what I was doing. Year 2, he showed up on campus and we eventually connected, got close, worked him out every day, challenged him as a coach. So now to see him go through a lot of these things as a college player or as a rookie in the NBA and to pour it back into these young guys, and he challenges them. But he also speaks life to them. He encourages them and then holds them accountable to it. I told him, and there's a lot of stars who do a lot of great stuff for players. I'm not saying they don't, but I don't know if anyone's doing as much as he does for this next generation of great players, to see them work on their character, address their work ethic, and have a great level of accountability in their life. And again, like I said, coaching him in college and me kind of starting my college career and him kind of showing up to Weber State at that time. Now, I mean, gosh, I think it's been 16, 17 years later. It's maybe one of the most fulfilling things I've done as a coach.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that a little bit throughout at the camp where there'd be times where maybe he's grabbing a guy and motioning the type of precision, the type of intent they need to have, whether it's, a situational drill or a concept. And I could kind of read body language because there's a lot of coaches there that have been with him for a while. And I thought it was awesome to see that kind of engagement and I guess appreciation for each other. Everyone's kind of grown together. But, off of that, we're going to get into more of the prospect. I'm going to call them green lights a little bit later. But, neither of us got in this business to talk about ourselves. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But I gotta get it, break down your journey. This is the In Due Time podcast. We amplify journeys. And nowadays, especially in training and coaching, player development, a lot of stuff's visible and it's like a highlight reel. Everyone has a highlight reel. Everyone wants to show their wins. I don't exactly remember when it was a few years back. I had the privilege of hearing your journey into college coaching and some of the grit, sacrifice, resilience to get where you wanted to be. Could you maybe for the listeners just break down how you kind of got your foot in the door, how you stuck, and the type of sacrifices you had to make to get it done?
Absolutely. It is. I mean, people don't like talking about themselves. I don't. The one thing I would preface my journey with, I'm 42 now. I think I started at the Division I level when I was 24. I coached high school 2 years before that. So right when I got out of college, I played at a small college. Right when I got out of done playing, I coached high school for 2 years here in Arizona and also taught high school. Then I went to Weber State. Here's what I've realized, though, which I would want to share kind of with all the listeners. And it's a great book. I run a coach's mentorship program throughout the year. And I actually just had a probably 30, 40-minute phone call with one of the guys in our mentorship group. He's coaching high school just like I was, similar age, and he thinks he wants to go coach college. And the problem, I think, with most people trying to take that next step is it's about them. They want it to be about them, what logo they're going to wear, what level they're going to be at. And I'm not saying I was perfect by any means, but I just wanted to get into college coaching. Part of it, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how much of a drastic difference there was from D2 to D1 or low major D1 to high major. I just wanted to coach college. And there's a book anyone on their journey that I think is really, really important to read. I give this book to players as well. I'll send you one, but it's the book called The Power of a Humble Life. And there's a phrase in this book. I remember I actually sent this book to Sam Presti. The same phrase kind of stuck out to him, but they're like, man, the true definition of humility, the true definition of, taking kind of that next step with whatever you want to do, it comes from knowing that all you are and all you have is either a gift from God or a result of others contributing to your life. So like either you got these gifts or these opportunities because God has given you favor or because other people have helped you. So going back to my journey, I had some unbelievable mentors and some people who helped me. The first one being Russ Pennell in Arizona. So while I coached high school, and here's my journey in a nutshell, quick version, but obviously there was a little grit and some grind to it. But I was coaching high school. Russ Pennell had been a Division I assistant forever. He's been a Division I head coach since then. He impacted me so much because he was running a basketball academy in the East Valley. So, Jacob, probably about 4 times a week, I would make the hour drive one way to volunteer at his academy just to be around him and just to learn. Whether we were coaching 7th graders or some of the top high school kids in Arizona, they had some pros there as well. I would do that, and from there, I was able to get the director of operations position at Weber State. Unfortunately, back then it was a non-paid position, but I wanted to coach basketball so bad. I knew I had to get my foot in the door. I begged Coach Randy Ray, for this job. I was talking to other Division I schools at the time, some D2, some GA jobs. The fact that it was a job, I was willing to roll the dice. I'm like, man, I'm going to go do this. So I went to Weber State, and I actually worked for free my first 2 years. So even when Dame got there the second year, I was not getting paid a dime. I would go work at Weber State from about 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon in the preseason, and then I would go work the night shift at Costco from 5:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. I'd work the night shift at Costco. That killed me for a while, so I started refereeing men's league games. I would train, little sixth graders, fifth graders on the weekends to make some money. I did whatever I had to do to just kind of keep that job and pay my bills at the Division I level. And then from there, my third year at Weber State, Coach Ray actually promoted me to a Division I assistant. So I spent 7 years at Weber, coached a lot of great players. We won several conference championships. We played in the NIT, the NCAA. And the one thing I was adamant about with my journey, I didn't make every decision perfect, but I said, hey, I'm going to surround myself with two types of people. People who are good dudes who do it the right way. And that was Randy Ray, kind of, my main second mentor. He gave me the chance. He ran a hell of a program, but he did it the right way. He did everything based on character and accountability, just like we do for Formula Zero. And then the second thing I said I'm going to do is surround myself by people who win. And I think that's where a lot of young coaches starting their journey out, they see the glitz and the glam or the Instagram posts, but are those people about the right things? Are those people winning and not just winning games, but maybe winning lives or, making a tremendous impact on people's career? From there, here's the speed part of the journey. Sam Presti hired me as a G League assistant. Great guy, great organization, phenomenal opportunity. I was at this point in my life where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I spent 1 year in the G League, went right back to coaching college, coached a year at Nebraska, coached 2 years at Boise State. The unique part of my journey, man, did all that stuff to grind to get to maybe a great point in college basketball. I'm trying not to ramble here. I hope, the listeners are still following along. I hope, you're still engaged with me. But I was 35 years old. I was associate head coach at Boise State. I thought I was ready to be a D1 head coach. People were calling to interview me, had all these great opportunities. And I just let the profession eat me alive. All I did was work. All I did was recruit. All I did was train players. I didn't like who I was becoming. I didn't like how I treated players or talked to them sometimes. So I was like, hey, I'm going to leave college basketball and I'm just going to go to the NBA because I'm tired of all this stuff. There are a few teams talking to me, but it brought me to where I am today. Dame and maybe one other NBA guy were like, you ain't working for another NBA team. You're going to train us full time. We want you to get us better. So I kind of, just follow God's calling. I moved back to Phoenix. I said, hey, I'm going to start my own thing. And people thought I was crazy because I walked away from everything that I worked for. At 35, associate head coach, 2 or 3 teams offering me NBA player development jobs, sitting behind the bench. And I really knew what God wanted me to do. I just finally decided to chase impact and significance and legacy over money and title and position. And that's what led me to where I am today. I started my own training and consulting business, and in Arizona doing driven basketball and Be Better, Be Different, our high performance and nonprofit that we do. And looking back, I'm on year 6 of this now. I never thought I'd be doing everything that I'm doing. I never thought I'd be working with the people that I'm working with. And it's been an absolute blessing. So kind of a crazy story. I know not like most people's getting into college or making those sacrifices and then taking the turns that I did, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love it. I appreciate you sharing that. They say, one of my mentors told me, if you have the courage to follow your intuition, your journey's not going to look like anybody else's. And I think that's pretty special. So Weber State, OKC Blue, Coach Mark Daigneault, Nebraska, Boise State, maybe not a I made it type of moment, but for the type of risk and sacrifice you took to get in the door, was there kind of a moment where you maybe disengaged from the fight or flight and you're like, all right, I made it, I found my purpose, I'm doing what I set out to do? Or was it kind of just a steady kind of continue, attack?
Yeah, that's a cool question, actually. I think they're, and I talk about this a lot in player development. Everyone always asks me, especially with the success we've had, a lot of the pre-draft guys we've helped, or guys who have kind of had mediocre work ethic and had now developed a great work ethic. They're like, what was the aha moment? When did the switch flip? I don't think that happens career-wise. I don't think it happened for me. But I do think I always say there are some pillars along the way, some moments along the way where you figure it out and you kind of step on that pillar and it allows you to get to the next one. This is crazy. I still remember driving to my first Division I game at Weber State against a Canadian team in the preseason wearing my suit. And man, like I was proud as a freaking peacock, man. I didn't know it. I was just like, I can't believe I came from Buckeye, Arizona. I've coached high school. I didn't even care that I wasn't getting paid a dime, that I was wearing a suit and going out there. And we probably only had 3,000 fans in our 12,000 seat arena. That was one. When I went to OKC, it's funny, I just told this story the other day. My first 2 weeks on the job, even though we were G League coaches, me and Mark Daigneault, who's now the head coach of the Thunder, we were out there early just to get a feel for the culture and be around the coaches. And the guy who is an assistant at OKC, he's actually in Milwaukee now with Dame, great guy, one of the best coaches and best humans I've been around, Rex Kaliman. He helped us at Formula Zero this year. But I remember he kind of saw something in me as a young coach in OKC, and he's like, "Hey, Phil, I'm going to shoot with some guys at night sometimes. Do you want to come back and help rebound?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. I have nothing to do. I'm in OKC." So the first text I get from him, "Jacob, you couldn't make this up." He's like, "Hey, I'm going to be back at 6:30 tonight. Do you want to come rebound?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll be there." I figured it was Jeremy Lamb, Andre Roberson, someone who, had already been in town. Then he texts me. He's like, "Hey, we're going to be a little late. It'll start at 7. Actually, Phil, it's going to be 7:30, and I don't care. So I show up at 7:30. The reason why this guy was late was because he was on a private jet and they had some weather trouble. And my first night doing extra work in OKC was helping Kevin Durant. And like his private shooting coach was there, Adam Harrington, who's phenomenal as well. And they're like, "All right, Phil, it's your turn to pass." And I'm like, and KD literally just won MVP the night before. So, I mean, there's just those pillars along the way. I could give you one at each stop. I won't, but Nebraska, I actually remember this one at Nebraska when our bus pulled up to Purdue and the fans are so loud and they're on top of you. It's just like, man, I'm really coaching in the Big Ten. Like you couldn't breathe in there. Or Boise State, we had a guy, Chandler Hutchison, who went from average to good to great, becomes a first rounder, and he broke the school scoring record against San Diego State. Like there were just moments like that where you're just like, holy cow, I'm really doing this. And as humans, we always want more. We're always grinding and working for that next spot, but it's those kind of moments that, make it all worth it.
That's funny. It actually reminds me, so I got my foot in the door as a student manager at the University of Maryland. And my first day of official class, I had transferred from junior college, and a long road to get to Maryland. And my first day of class, my mentor at the time was a video coordinator, young assistant coach. And he texted me the night before at like 11:15, 11:45. He's like, "I got Sadiq Bey coming in the morning to work out. Can you rebound?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." I'm there. It was 7 a.m. Ended up going at like 7:30. I had my first class in university at 8 a.m. And I remember we finished at like 8:45. I'm running across campus. At that time, I was so engaged in the basketball side, I didn't even know where the class was. And, not disrespectfully, but it's just I was very engaged in the basketball side. And I remember getting into the class and there was like 5 minutes left. And I saw someone I knew from high school. And they're like, "How are you 55 minutes late to your first day of class?" And in my head, I was like, "Dude, I was rebounding for Sadiq Bey, but was I supposed to say no?"
Jake, look, let me say this because I know there's a lot of young coaches or, young scouts. And like I said, we do this mentorship group. What you just described to me is what I challenge so many of our younger coaches with. And Dame actually says this to the younger players all the time in Formula Zero. And for some reason, there's this enormous gap in kids or coaches' mentality where they know what they want and they know what they have to do, but there's this enormous gap. And Dame always says this: you can't have both. And he told our kids that last night. He's like, "Some of you aren't playing well or getting the minutes you want, but you're still going out and partying or you're still posting on social media. Like you guys cannot have both." And what I think for the coaches who make it, and I could bring up all these guys who've mentored me, almost everyone has that story where they gave up something else, maybe really, really comfortable or something they were supposed to do for what they ultimately wanted the most. And like you said, pretty much, I'm willing to fail this class because I want basketball first. I want to be a manager first. I want to rebound for Sadiq Bey and show this coach I'm about it. And I don't care. I'll take a C in this class, even though mom said I'm supposed to get all A's and B's and got like, screw it. And like Dame says, you can't have everything. You can't have both. And so many times coaches on their journey want to coach Division One or want to be in the NBA or they want to be an intern for us in Arizona for driven basketball, be better, be different, or they want to help at Formula Zero. You don't get both. You either got to be all in and probably fail at some things or maybe go broke. You know, the part of my story, and last thing I'll say about, sacrifice, that I had money saved up to be that volunteer assistant the first year, the ops guy. The second year, though, I was out of money. So by the time I got promoted, I was $7,000 in debt. But like, and I used to tell Dame this in college, and sorry, you got me all fired up because like I admire your journey, and that's why I want you part of our Formula Zero group with us. But like these kids and these coaches listening, like they got to take that step. And here's what I ask: is Phil, like younger Phil, is that $7,000 worth the price of your dream? Abso-freaking-lutely. Jacob, is getting a C in that class or missing the first day worth the price of your dream? And your actions said it was, not just your words. A lot of these young guys I work with, and I know we'll get into scouting and evaluation and player development, but like they say it, literally, there's a guy from Formula Zero the other day. I watched him at the Tart Classic, high school kid. I said, hey, you got to get your movements more precise. I'm going to send you a few Devin Booker edits. I've never worked with Book, but he's one of my favorite players in the league, plays with a great level of precision. Biomechanically, he moves well. I go, I want you to watch these and let me know what you see. It took 4 days for him to get back to me. I said, well, I thought you said it was important. He goes, it is. And I always ask guys this, and you could have asked yourself this back in the day. Should I listen to your words or should I listen to your actions? And every time these damn kids say your actions. And your actions showed, I'm going to make it in the basketball world. Like, I don't know what your major was, business or media or what. I might not make it in that. Yeah, your major was basketball for sure. So I think that's the biggest thing when people choose to close that gap of where they want to be and who they really are or where they're at. When they chose to close that gap and maybe fail, but it takes some tough sacrifices and they know they can't have both, that's when they have a chance to be successful and get it done.
Definitely. I think it goes back to what you had said, and, everyone is a, product of all the people that poured into them. And I think, that doesn't happen for me unless I had people and mentors that gave me that type of, I guess, awareness. Because for me, like you said, it wasn't a decision. It was instinct.
Yes.
Once you make that, it's like one decision,
Yes.
and then every other decision after it's automatic. You don't have to think.
Absolutely.
It's either you're doing it or you're not. But, we talked about, that transition from prospect to pro. It's heavily marketed nowadays. I'm part of it now with League Cam.
Yeah.
It's visible. These kids are celebrities. And, at League Cam, we're very intent on highlighting the right things in that transition, in that process. So you have a unique perspective and insight on players' journeys from prospect to pro, from the grassroots level to working with the NBA 75er like Damian Lillard. I know you've been a part of a lot of different pre-draft processes in various capacities. I know you've led a pre-draft, been a mentorship, maybe you've been getting calls. The pre-draft process has risen. It's more marketed. Like I said, it's more visible. Could you maybe highlight some of the key areas that are unseen, but of much higher importance and impact long-term?
Yeah, this is a question, and not question. I'm sorry. This is a topic I'm extremely passionate about. Like, I think God's put a burden on my life to help, some of these kids or these people around these kids and these players, because right now in the pre-draft process or at the grassroots level, here, this is just the truth. It's gotten way easier to make it to the NBA, but it's gotten way harder to stay in the NBA. And I'm not going to cuss on this, but there's a lot of MFers out there telling these kids the wrong things, the wrong way at the wrong times, and they might get there, but they're not going to stay. It's unbelievable. I just did a study right now, and I could share it with you when we get off this. I'm going to post it at some point. We went through all 24 McDonald's All-Americans. And out of those 24, like, I'm guessing 20 of them are projected first round or second round picks, just guessing. I think there are only nine that have started every game in college this year. And I think only 12 have started like the majority of games. That's half or like less than half. It's crazy. So when you talk about what goes on behind the scenes, the first thing that used to be addressed is like ability, skill work, conditioning, shooting, getting these guys to a point training wise so they could display their strengths and they could display their skill sets. Now, especially the last 4 years, how we do it, driven basketball in Phoenix, or how we do it, mentor these guys with Formula Zero, it is their mentality, it is their habits, it is their approach, their work ethic, their accountability, because to me, that's the stuff that's making or breaking these guys right now. And Dame told them that on our mentorship call last night. You're all good enough. You're all already on the radar. He's like, shoot, when I was a freshman, sophomore in college, I wasn't even on the radar. Like, some of these guys, and here's the phrase I'm going to start using, which I hate this, Jacob. Like, I hate it. But like, the anointed ones. Some of these dudes have been anointed to make the NBA since their junior year of high school. And a large majority will make the NBA. They'll get drafted. But here's the truth. They ain't good enough. They're not good enough to stay. They're not good enough maturity-wise. They're not good enough habit-wise when they get there. And they better pray or beg their agent that they get involved with the right team at the right time or the right organization who cares about their development on and off the court. Because not all teams develop players the same way. But these dudes who are anointed or who are talented, some of them are already tapping out of their ability. Some of them have the wrong voices around them. So when they finally do hear the truth, they think the truth is a lie. Because every parent, trainer, I'm a trainer and I hate that word. I call myself every parent, trainer, agent, coach. No one has told them no. Hardly anyone has told the majority of them they're not good enough. Or, hey, you didn't say thank you and look that person in the eye. I know you got me going here. I'll give you an example. I just met one of the top kids of the country at the Tart Classic. Jacob, I met one of the top kids in the country. We want to invite him to Formula Zero next year. He'll be a freshman in college. His coach takes me over there to interview him, to introduce me to him. Jacob, he's wearing sunglasses inside the gym. Okay? He shakes my hand and he goes, hey, this is Phil Beckner. He runs Formula Zero with Damian Lillard. He's coached in college, the NBA, this and that. The kid shakes my hand and I'm like, hey, you got a concussion? Why are you wearing sunglasses? He goes, no, I just like wearing them. And he didn't even take them off to introduce himself to an adult. That kid is going to have struggles at some point. There was another kid, like I told him, I watched him practice, and I said, hey, there's 3 types of players in every practice. There's competitors, there's participants, and there's spectators. You were just a participant in your practice. You should, and this is a kid who was at Formula Zero. I went and watched his practice. I said, bro, you were a participant. And you want to be a top 10 pick. You want to be a top 20 pick. His first response to me was, that's what you think. And I was like, this dude, no one has given him anything. Like anything truthful. So when they finally hear the truth, they think it's a lie. So I know your answer was about pre-draft, but I'm telling you, the mentality and the hearts of these players before the pre-draft process, during the pre-draft process, and after, to me, that's what's going to determine whether they stay in the NBA or not. Sorry, passionate, like I said, about that one. But man, it's damn near a crisis right now. Like there's two crises with, I think, younger, highly talented, elite level players. The guys you're watching, they either have a character crisis, it's a crisis of character, or a crisis of confidence.
Definitely. I think crisis is the perfect word. And it's tricky too, because it happens so quickly, especially with some of the guys you're referring to, where I like to say, like, God took their time. Like, they have every gift in their disposal. And, a lot of times our platform, we tend to highlight the more late bloomers and guys like that. And
Yeah.
Those guys are blessed in a different way because they don't have those people, I guess, like putting a pillowcase around them or kind of blanketing a lot of the rugged, the turmoil that shapens you as a human being and ultimately leads to your success as a basketball player. So you got into the truth telling part. You're a truth teller. That's something you take pride in, and you're at the forefront of player development. You're involved in pre-draft. So I imagine the phone is buzzing a lot from people in NBA front offices. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Every year.
Gotcha. So this is something that I want to make sure it's talked about more because, being myself in player development, being around some high level high school players, some high level college players, they don't realize that, like, when they go to Chick-fil-A and pick up their food on campus, if they say something disrespectful,
Yeah.
like at least 20 NBA teams are going to hear about it because there are millions of dollars spent every year on gathering every single piece of information. If they're finding out where the teachers, how they treat everybody, and that intel piece is pivotal. So maybe that gets lost in the public consumption. It's less flashy, less marketable.
Yeah.
But what are some of the heavy hitting questions that you get hit with a lot when these executives, these scouts are really trying to evaluate the player?
Yeah, the first part, one thing we tell of all our guys and some of these younger trainers who, who shouldn't just be training their guys, they should be mentoring their guys throughout this process as well, which is very, very important. The first thing, and NBA coaches say this all the time, still, kind of as a joke, but like if you're in the pre-draft process and they ask you a question, it's kind of like the FBI asking you a question. They already know the answer. Don't lie. So, like, if they ask if they're smoking or drinking or whatever, they already know the answer. So, when these trainers lie for their players, or when the parents or the players even lie for themselves, like you just made yourself worse by lying. They already know what those flaws are. They already know what those strengths are. They're just asking to see how you'll respond to it, to see maybe if you'll improve on it, whatever it may be. One, the three killers. I think people don't talk about this enough publicly, but I remember always talking to Mark Daigneault about this. But there's like three killers in the process where like you'll almost get blackballed. You'll have no chance. The three G's: girls, guns, and gambling. If you're screwing with any of those, like maybe you're not a good human. Girls, guns, gambling, you're not going to have a chance. And again, a lot of people don't want to tell parents, kids this, and now like anyone could gamble on a dang phone. Girls or dates, you could shoot a text or a Instagram or Tinder. Like people know this stuff. So the three G's automatically freaking excuse guys. And then I think the other intel parks, what people want to know now is how these guys respond to stuff in two ways. One, when no one's watching, when they think no one's watching, like, do these dudes go to bed? Do these dudes go out? How do they treat the manager driving them to and from the workouts? Like, they don't want to just talk to me. So, like, some of the best organizations, they want to talk to our interns. They're like, hey, does this kid, like, you drive him every day? You pick him up for pre-draft every day? How does he treat you? Oh man, this dude's a jerk. He's on his phone the whole time. He's yelling at his girlfriend. Like, what? How do you behave when no one's around? And then the second thing they want to know, what is that dude like when things get really, really tough? When you do tell them the truth, or when they do get confronted, do they run from it? Do they hide from it? Do they make excuses about it? So those two areas are huge intel wise. Other than some of the things that might just eliminate them from the process.
Definitely. I like how you listed that with the three G's, and man, that's pivotal, especially because the managers, the interns, the younger coaches, they don't maybe know yet that their name's going to be on the real GM report, and it's going to be published and read by every member of the organization, and there's a footprint there if you're not honest with
Yeah.
that feedback. So those are some of the determinants. Those are some of the maybe negative factors. This is what I referenced in the intro. I'd love to highlight, what are the prospect green lights? So kind of open-ended with this, but what I mean by green lights is whether you're around a player, you hear something about a player, you witness something, then in your head, you're like, ooh, like they might make it. Like they've got it. Like what are those? Maybe that's just a couple, whatever you'd like to highlight.
I love your term. We're going to steal that. And again, that's why I told you I want you part of Formula Zero. We're going to have a green light presentation next year at camp for, a lot of these guys. Here's what I would say. And hey, we're giving our time, to your audience. So let's do a good job for them. Jacob, there to us, and I think this is why maybe we've had, some great success with pre-draft guys or young guys in the NBA. We break it down into two categories: skill sets, right? And intangibles. So I want to go through the skill sets first really, really quickly. And I'm going to keep it very simple. Guys who have an really adequate handle and passing ability, handle, footwork, passing ability, the basic fundamentals of basketball that have been taught and trained the right way. I'm going to say that again. Handle, footwork, and passing that have been taught and trained the right way. I'm not going to say any names right now. A couple guys I get to see a lot in the league I don't work with. They're struggling year 2 and 3 in the league. One's a year 3 guy, one's a year 2 guy. So much of their decision making, their skill work on the court would be better if their handle, footwork, and passing was more precise. If they dribbled the ball a certain way, because we all make fun of them now. The Instagram trainers who have 9 million ball handling drills, a cone, a freaking balloon, a spatula, whatever the hell they got out there doing all these drills. These guys haven't been taught to train their handle and train their footwork and train their passing the right way. So that's a huge green light. When I see a player with that level of precision, that's huge for me. The second one is being able to shoot the basketball. We talk about it all the time in our group. That's one thing, probably one of my strengths as a coach, is teaching guys how to shoot the ball better. That's why the Sixers brought me out as a consultant for 2 years to help guys shoot the basketball better. We always say shooting is the separator. And I know you wanted to talk about undersized guys at some time, but being able to shoot the basketball, being able to take and make threes within their position is huge skill-wise. The third thing, I think this is a skill that can be developed, but conditioned. Guys have to be conditioned to guard, conditioned to sit in a stance, conditioned to run the floor. Dudes think they're in shape, then they come to Phoenix and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never trained this hard or this fast. I've never trained with this amount of speed or this amount of force. So conditioning for us falls in those skill sets. Don't get it twisted, though. Anyone listening, they're like, oh, I got a great handle. I got a great trainer. Oh, I could shoot the ball, and I'm in phenomenal shape. I tweeted it the other day. If you're not one of these genetic freaks or have the right dimensions, you got to have a certain – if you don't have all that, there are very, very, very few 6'2" Hall of Famers like Damian Lillard, 6'2" top 75, 6'2" Kyrie Irving, 6'3" Steph Curry's. Very few Fred VanVleets. So you could have the skill sets, but very, very few of those, which leads to the second part, the intangibles. Man, right now, going back to what I said, there's a crisis of confidence. And not just guys who have a false confidence or fake it. They're not as good as they think they are. They're delusional. But some of these dudes, really don't believe in themselves. They really are, fearful. The question I get so much from these young guys who are highly ranked, the dudes you're watching and tweeting about, these dudes don't have a level of self-belief. And I think a lot of it goes back to what you just said. The length of their career, the time frame of, them getting anointed has been so freaking fast. They haven't gone through the adversity. A lot of guys I've worked with, Dame Lillard, 4 years in college, Mikal Bridges, CJ McCollum, all these dudes have been in college for multiple years and went through some of that stuff and figured it out. So, one, their confidence. Two, here's what I've said, and Dame has actually been big on this year with the Bucks. He's like, I'm willing. Are you a willing player? Willing to get out of your comfort zone? Willing to watch film? We had a guy in the pre-draft process last year. I had 6 dudes in pre-draft. I told them they all have to watch a certain movie before they're allowed to come back and work out. They weren't working hard enough. I was like, I want you to see what you're fighting for. And the movie was Cinderella Man. Russell Crowe, he has to box and fight for freaking milk money to feed his family. I'm like, guys, this ain't fighting to play Division I anymore. This ain't fighting to be an AAU All-Star anymore. You're fighting to get a freaking job. So I want to know who is willing to fight. Those guys who are willing to fight and do the extra, it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, that dude has a chance. Oh, yeah, that guy's going to make it. And out of 6 of those guys, 1 dude didn't watch it, which was crazy. And so, like, we address it with those guys. So, like I said, confidence, a willingness, and then the third part, which is this is like deep for me, and I think it's really, really good for you and these listeners. The ability to sustain and follow through. I'm going to say it again. The ability to sustain and follow through. Everyone is great the first week of school. Everyone has straight A's the first week of school. Some people stop doing their homework the second week. Some people stop doing it the third week. Some people stop doing their homework a month later. There's a few that always do their freaking homework. They could sustain mentally, physically, emotionally. They could sustain spiritually. They do all these things in their life. So now they could follow through on what they want most. A guy I've got to know lately, I'm super proud of him, super impressed with him. He's been watching film with me, Keontae George. He came to Formula Zero a couple years ago, played against the Bucks this year, and he's like, Phil, I want to know how the game slows down for guys like Dame, when they know to impose their will, and you know what Keontae George has been phenomenal at? Sustaining and following through. He has not missed 1 week of film yet. If he said he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So you want to talk green lights, and obviously I get passionate and fired up. Show me the guys who have a true level of confidence and self-belief. Not the fake one, not like I'm going to scream and yell to the camera at the AAU event, but when I'm playing against old boy who's a hungry dog and only 2 stars, I ain't bringing it. Or, oh, my ankle hurts. That ain't real confidence. Show me the guys who have a willingness to be coached and hear the truth, a willingness to do the extra, a willingness to be like, hey, like, why am I watching this movie? Why am I reading this book? But I'm gonna do it because I know very few are. And then, like I said, that last one, who could sustain? Like, you want a green light? Who has that capacity to sustain and continue to follow through on who they said they wanted to be, what goals they set, and where they're trying to end up? Like, those are some big-time green lights intangibly. And then when you combine them with some of these skill sets or these talents, man, I think it's over. Then you have a chance to really, really become who you want to become.
100%. I appreciate how thorough you were in breaking that down from on the court to off the court. And 2 follow-ups to that. The first part, every time I watch an NBA game, I think the number one on the court thing that sticks out to me is just fluidity. And I think I've heard you say, like, fluid guys get better.
Yeah.
And maybe expand a little bit on that, because for me, when I'm trying to, like, pinpoint like which players I think can actually reach that upside, because everyone has upside, everyone has these things they can improve on, but like you said, with the consistency, the engagement, the investment, like who's actually doing it, like the fluidity on the court seems like to be some of the protein actually reaching that.
Yeah. Phenomenal question. Again, I think that's something that's not evaluated as much at all levels. Just and when we say fluidity, here's like, we're talking about how well the players move, like how connected they are biomechanically. Like, one of my favorite movers is Devin Booker in the league. Man, he's 6'5", but just so connected, so fluid. A guy like CJ McCollum, he has game, but he's so connected and he's so fluid. So our phrase, what we always say, the best players are usually the best movers, like how they move out there. But then the elite players, the guys who go from good to great, are the best movers with the ball in their hands. So kind of to piggyback off your thing of green light, what we say are red light, what would be red lights for us? If you're stiff, it's going to be really hard to get better or maximize your potential. Like, there's some guys, I'm not going to say any names, but they're just too stiff. They can't pass it as easy. It affects their decision-making because their brain might be working, but their body's not in sync with it. But if you're stiff, if you're stuck, your feet are always stuck in the floor, or you're stuck getting out of a stance, or stuck trying to gather the ball, getting it to the rim to finish, stiff, stuck, or stupid. Like, if you're not very smart, and some people are like, oh, Phil, that's mean. Like, it's the truth. If you're stiff, if you're stuck, if you're stupid, it's going to be really, really hard to maximize your ability. But the guys who could move really, really well biomechanically, they get better faster. They're able to take on some stuff. One guy we had at Formula Zero, I think, you know, super proud of him. I've got to know him, but a guy like Darren Peterson, you watch how he moves biomechanically.
Sharp.
I get it. He's top 3, top 5 in the country, but those are the guys where I'm like, oh, did you see how his shoulders and hips sink down on that drive? That looks like Devin Booker. And, one thing I learned is, and my pre-draft guys love it, the NBA, my private clients love it, player comparisons. Like, if you're a player or you're a trainer or you're a scout, you can't compare someone who's not built biomechanically to someone that isn't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to compare Dame to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, could Dame learn from Shai? Maybe something he could do? Absolutely. Shai's one of the best players in the league. Could Shai learn something from Dame? Absolutely. But you got Dame, who is a blunt force trauma, 6'2", freaking wrecking ball, and you got Shai, who's a 6'5", fluid, snake it through, they're not built the same. And I think that's where a lot of mistakes come in with development or evaluation. They're not looking at how these guys move or how they're built biomechanically.
Well said. So kind of starting to put everything together. You brought up the quote. I was going to bring it up too. It's never been easier to make it to the NBA, and it's never been harder to stay. Love that. We had texted about this briefly earlier in the week. There's some really, there's some talented small guards. What's a small guard? Let's say 6'2" or under in college right now, making noise. And those guys are easy to point out. They have the ball in their hands. They're scoring points. They're getting assists. They're the catalyst of team success. And, I wanted to break down with you, what are the small guard essentials to survival? So we kind of talked about, on the court, off the court, what allows guys to stick. But small guard specific, what's like the survival guide?
I'm looking for something on my phone right now. We did a study like 3 years ago. Small to us, I think, should be 6'1" or under.
Okay.
6'1", that's what we say, okay? But we did a study of how many 6'1" guys were in the NBA. I can't find it right now. So your question is, how do you phrase it so good? The survival, what would you say?
Yeah, the small guard essentials to survival. The survival guide for small guards to stick.
Before I answer that, can we throw something else out? Can I throw something else out? Here's what's happening. Trainers, coaches, parents, agents, we literally talked about this on our Formula Zero Zoom call last night because we have 30 players participate. We mentor all these kids still, and any kid who's been part of Formula Zero could still get on the calls. These kids are struggling with an inordinate amount of pressure to make it. And again, these are all good kids who've been projected or 5-star or whatever. Pressure to make it. And here's the deal. Pressure to make it now. Like not yesterday. Like, no, you need to be one and done. No, here's the truth, though. I say this. Dame says that our coaches at Formula Zero, and if some of you parents or trainers are listening, go ahead and write me on Twitter if you get pissed. I don't care. I'll find the message. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. And Dame told them that. And with all due respect, Dame's like, I've had one of the best agents my entire career, the good ones. He's like, they tell me some stuff, and I don't listen to them. Like, Dame, go score more. Dame, get the ball. My parents and my cousins, they're on the court after we win the NBA Cup, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. There are very few experts out there. I don't know if I'm an expert. Maybe that's what helps me. I'm so damn scared of getting it wrong with a level of humility. And Jacob, I think you have that. That's why, like, even after our camp, you were like, I'm not going to post right away. I want to get some of this stuff right. I'm not like, everyone just throws this stuff out in a hurry. And they don't even know how many 6'1" guards or under are in the NBA. Are you freaking kidding me? They're not doing the work, the research. Like I said, oh, you're McDonald's All-American. You're going to make it. Bull freaking crap. Because we just did the research to know only 9 McDonald's All-Americans from 2023 or 2024, whatever the class it was, only 9 have started every single game. They don't know, and you've seen it at our camp, we show the last 5 years of the NBA draft, and we color code it. Red means you don't have a job. Yellow means your contract is up for renewal, or green. And as you go backwards, it becomes more and more red. And there are lottery picks who are year 2, year 3, and they're already yellow. They like that. I'm sorry, not yellow. They're already red. They're not in the league anymore. They're in the G League. So for people to be advising these guys and not know really what goes on, like they'll be like, oh yeah, if he's 6'1", he just has to be a dog and play really, really hard. Bro, you're high. You're crazy. And here's a great story. Jacob, you'll love this. This is what happens. Like you said, these people should be watching the games. No, they need to go to a game. If you're a trainer or young agent, like, by the way, we got all these NIL agents now. Like, my freaking brother could be one, and he works for the car dealership by the airport. There's no certification for NIL agent. You just, oh, I'm one. And you have no clue. So, like, you want to help a 6'1" or a guy get to the NBA, or maybe it's a 6'6" guy who could jump out of the gym. Well, guess what? There's 2,000 of those out there too. So what really gets them there? You better watch NBA games, but you better go to some. And you need to like get to the court. If you can't afford courtside, you need to get to the court as soon as the doors open and watch and look at how big these freaking human beings are. They are enormous. Or how about this? Go look at the positions of all the two-way contracts and the size of those guys. And then let's see in 2024 how many actually got converted to a real contract, because they're telling these kids to leave college and we'll get you two-way. And then a year from there, you'll be in the NBA. How many do it? And like driven basketball, we know how many do it because we're going to do that work to show these guys so they can make a good decision. Here's the other thing I'd say. Go to Summer League. Because if you went to an NBA game that year and then you go to Summer League and you see how much space is on that court, and you're like, oh boy scored 22 in Summer League. You think he's going to go score 22 for the Bucks? It's Giannis, then Dame, then Chris. Then you ain't scoring 20. Now, if it's a rookie, first rounder, lottery, maybe, something like that. But you go out in Summer League, Jacob, and you see the size. Oh my God. You're like, they don't even look like NBA guys. And so before I answer your question, I know I'm sorry, man.
No, it's great.
So how about this? Great story. I'm sitting there. This was 5-6 years ago. Dame's still in Portland. He just got done working with his coaches, but I just went there to watch his workout. I'm sitting there with an assistant coach of the Trailblazers at a time. This is an off-season workout for Dame. He wanted to do some of the team, so I just go watch. Jacob, this is amazing. They have one spot left for their Summer League, just to make the Summer League team. One spot for Summer League. That's how hard it freaking is. 10 guys walk in. They're going to have a little scrimmage and workout. And these are D1 players. Some have been 4 stars. Like, you would recognize the names. I knew some of the faces. And I'm sitting there next to the assistant from the Trailblazers. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect evaluator, but I look over. These dudes walked in. And I said, there ain't one guy in there that's going to play in Summer League. Like, there ain't one guy in there that's going to make the NBA. And I just said that to myself. And it was Nate Tibbetts, who's head coach of the Mercury now. He taps me and he goes, Phil, I've done this for so long. He goes, I could damn near tell when they walk in right here, whether a guy has a chance or not. That's how crazy it is, by how they're built, how they carry themselves. And I go, Nate, I swear I just looked at that group and I was like, there ain't one guy playing in Summer League, because they're all these little small guys. Like, that's how crazy it is. So I don't know if you have anything on that before you want me to answer your, thing about the 6'1", 6'2" guys, but I think that's so important to address before you get to, hey, now, this is what they got to do to have a chance.
Definitely. I actually have 2 fitting names to kind of I thought of as you broke that down. So first, the two-way conundrum, I'll call it. Now we have extra 32 ways. There's 92 ways now. The 2 ways, for listeners who maybe aren't aware, it's about $550,000. Some guys get bumps from being on the roster. In the collective, you could be making more than that. At a lot of big-time schools. But besides the point of the money, first player that came to mind that made that transition, you said it, Formula Zero, you show the green, yellow, red. Aaron Wiggins, I was fortunate enough to be around, plays for Coach Mark Daigneault. He's made it. He got paid, third contract already, went from two-way to guarantee, 6'6", long arms, does everything on a basketball floor, and paramount to any of that, he is one of the nicest, most consistent, disciplined, just like well-rounded people that I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
So like, it's not a surprise that he's adaptable on the court and he figures it out. And then another player that came to mind, and this kind of transitions as we go to the small guard survival guide, a guy you've worked with for a long time, I believe, Ray J. Dennis.
Yeah.
That's someone I saw him play in person at Portsmouth. I had interviewed him in the past, had been watching him closely as he advanced throughout college. He ended up finishing at Baylor. And I remember talking to a G League GM in between games, and I was just like, man, I don't know how his career is going to start, but like, if I'm an agent of another player, like I want Ray J. Dennis at the combine because he's going to get dudes paid. like he puts, I said he pads pockets. He puts money in other guys' pockets. And the dude was like, man, like I was hoping he wasn't playing well because all these G League GMs, like they'd kill to have someone like that run their G League team throughout the season. With how, G League's all about development, winning, but like someone like that can be a real catalyst. So first, give you opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about Ray J, and then we'll kind of transition into the small guard essentials. I appreciate how authentic and thorough you've been with all these descriptions.
Absolutely. And again, we're just trying to do this to help others and see, I mean, you're in it the same reason I am. If there's some coaches or trainers or fans or parents or players listening to this and it gets them closer to their goal, we did our job. And again, we don't have every answer, but just based on our experience is what we're trying to do today. Well, you hit it, Aaron Wiggins, obviously. And that's what I was saying. You better go to a place where they care about development. But I'll tell you what, Sam Presti and Mark Daigneault, they're not going to miss on character. They're not going to miss on good humans. They're not going to miss on those things that, we could control. And OKC, obviously, they have one of the best developmental programs, whether it's their team, the Blue, Summer League, like they're going to develop guys there. And when you have the right DNA like Wiggins did, and I don't know him, I admire him from afar, but when you have the right DNA like that, you're going to flourish. Going back to Ray J, man, I've known that kid since he was at Boise State. I didn't recruit him. He showed up there right after. But here's a cool story about Ray J. And I think going back to and Ray J 6'2", he'd probably say 6'3" even. Maybe he is.
Long arms. He's got
long arms. But Ray J has that willingness that we were talking about. Like, it's so funny. I train him, he hit me like a week ago and he's like, hey, can we watch some film? I got 3 days off. Like, he's hitting me and asking, me to get him better. But I remember it was like 4 years ago. He came out and he worked out a little bit when he was at Boise. And then he came out the next summer. And the next summer he stayed at my house. And he watched my dog for me. Like, I had to leave. He's watching the dog. Then the next summer, he stayed at my house again. And Jacob, I was just sitting there one night, he walks in, he did, 3 workouts that day, his basketball on court, his strength training, they did shooting at night. He shot with the intern. So I'm at home and I'm like, bro, why are you at my house? He's like, because I trained with you. I go, how did we ever I didn't recruit you. I never coached you. And here's the thing about Ray J. He just wants to find a way so bad. He begged me to train him. And people hit me all the time. And as you know, I turn down a lot of dudes. I turn down a lot of, I won't let just anyone come train. I don't care. I ain't, trying to have these battles every time. Ray J, willed himself into our training group. He's like Phil's going to train me and I'm just going to keep showing up and show. Before you know it, he's he didn't have any money when he was at Toledo before NIL. And he's staying in my freaking guest trip. I'm like, bro, I can't get rid of you. But because of that, he's going to make it. He showed up to Formula Zero this year. We do a pro version of Formula Zero now, which isn't publicized as much or talked about. We have about 20 pros who work on the same thing: character, work ethic, and accountability. So he gets invited. He shows up. The older kind of pros at night just do some shooting. The younger pros go play pickup. And I remember there's an NBA guy that walked in right after they played pickup. He just played, and he's like, who is that guy? And Jacob, it was exactly what you said. He won every game. He made everyone better. He still shot it good enough. He scored good enough. And he was just like, he's not on a team yet. He's only on the G. He's like, a team signing him. So part of it, yeah, maybe your circle and your parents are kissing your butt and your agent, everyone. But like when other people are telling you you're really good, or like when the outside people identify it, that's when you know you're going to have a chance. So like Ray J's willingness. I always make my guys watch the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. Dame watched it in college. Ray J's like I've watched it. You've watched it. Like when you have that type of desire to find a way, maybe you're sleeping in the subway. You got to give blood to pay your bills. Like you're gonna freaking end up getting a contract. And like I'm still sticking a stake in the ground. Like Ray J. Dennis is going to wear an NBA jersey. Like I'm telling, I don't care if it's a two-way, whatever. Like, and the dude's overcome a little physical, thing that's held him back. Like he is going to find a way to wear an NBA jersey. Like I'm stamping that one. So let's get into it. I know we're about out of time, so you want to close on this. Guards 6'1" or under, or like you say 6'2" or under, who are going to make it at the NBA. Three things have to happen first. They got to be able to shoot the ball. They got to be able to handle the ball and play at the pace of the NBA game. And they got to at least be able to defend their position. Those are the things. If they cannot do those from every NBA coach, or me being on, with the Sixers, like they don't have a freaking chance. Because when you're a second or third string point guard, you got to be able to make a shot. You got to be able to handle it and push the pace and throw it to the guys who are making way more money than you, the $20 million to $50 million a year guys. And then you got to be able to defend your position. So freaking important. Those are absolutes. I'm going to change my camera. I don't know, if everyone could see this, but like the guy, Tim Frazier, right here, who's 6'1", undrafted, ultimate example of our formula, our training. I've got to work with him. He speaks to the kids at camp. He could push the pace. He could defend. He could make a freaking shot. Just good enough. And that dude played like 7 or 8 years in the league and just kept getting cut and getting a job, and got cut and got a job. He is the ultimate example. Played in the Big Ten at Penn State, doubted, underrated, figured it out in the G League. But here's the other part. If you're a 6'1" guy, you better be likable. The coaches better like you. The players better like you. The team better like you. I remember I said the first couple of years, it was crazy. I think Patty Mills was in Portland. And I'm like, that dude gets paid. And I used to tell Dame, because I think he went to the league before Dame did. I go, he gets paid like $1.5 million to be a cheerleader. And he don't care. And then what did he become? He went from third string to backup. And Patty Mills is like 5'10" on a good day. I don't care what they list him at. But what could Patty do? He played at St. Mary's. He could handle and pass. He could push the pace. He could make a shot, and he could defend. Like, even though he's smaller, he'd pick that guy up, pressure, and defend. But people loved Patty. Here's a great compliment to Tim Frazier. Everywhere he went, the star of the team loved him. He was in freaking Anthony Davis's wedding. He's still one of Dame Lillard's best friends because he was a great dude. He was a great locker room guy. And it took humility and awareness to get there. Tim was just such a good dude. He still does it to this day. Jacob, this is crazy. And this will probably give you goosebumps. It's unbelievable. I'll be working out Dame at camp or whatever. Tim will jump in with us. Tim's workout's over. He'll jump out there and he'll rebound for the next guy. He did it for young guys at Formula Zero. These guys like Darren Peterson, Jalil Bethia, Ian Jackson. Tim Frazier will get out there and just help rebound. Just a good freaking teammate, a guy people want to be around. They say thank you. They look you in the eye. These 6'1" guys, they look you in the eye and they shake your hand. They are never late. They never miss a day. And it sounds so cliche, but they're the first ones there, the last ones to leave. Guys, they don't leave. They live there. They'll work out with the best player. They'll do their workout. And then when the defensive coach needs someone to do a walkthrough with the starter who's not playing right now just to get him reps, then they'll go to do the walkthrough with him. That's how you make it as a backup guard in the NBA. That's why Tim Frazier, we call it the Tim Frazier shirt we give away at camp. You can either find a way or find an excuse. We have it on a wristband. Those 6'1" guards, they find a way. They never find an excuse. We had a question last night in our mentorship group. One of the kids, top player, high major school. He asked Dame, he goes, what do you do when the situation's not built for you to succeed? And it was an unbelievable answer. And Tim Frazier would probably answer this the same way. He goes, first of all, my mentality is I would never see a situation built for me not to succeed. I might have to change my definition of success. I might not just start or get to play a ton, but it's not going to be that I can't succeed. And you came up with that mindset probably because of the people around you, what they're telling you and what you're hearing. So you got to shift your mindset first. So when you look at these guards, they're going in there and they're saying, hey, I'm going to find a way. I'm not going to find an excuse. Like, oh, man, Doc Rivers doesn't like me. Mark Daigneault doesn't like me. Or, oh, they don't like small guards. That stuff ain't even going through their heads. They're going to say, I'm going to check every box and do every single thing this coach is asking me to do so I can wear that freaking jersey. The part people miss now, and I love it. There's some of you 6-foot dudes listening on this podcast right now. Like, I'm a dog. I could do it. If you can't shoot, sorry, pal. You'll be a backup in the G League. If you can't at least pressure the ball and defend your position for 3 or 4 minutes, they just bully you. Sorry, pal. You're going to be a backup in Spain. So probably not even Spain, Germany. I don't know. If you can't take care of the ball, not turn it over, or like I always tell guys, and I'll close on this. You want to be a guy that makes it. If you're a $500,000 two-way guy and you're 6'1", or you're a $1.5 million, $2 million minimum guy and you're 6'1", you need to throw the ball to the guy who's making a lot more than you. Yeah. That have a chance. So, hey, this is stuff we talk about in the pre-draft process. This is stuff we talk about with Formula Zero. This is stuff we talk about with our clients with Driven. Man, I'm grateful you asked. I love what you're doing. I hope I gave some stuff that's going to impact the next generation of players, trainers, and coaches. But, yeah, thank you, man. So, sorry for going so long with that.
No, it's perfect. I appreciate your perspective. And the only thing I'd add to that is, you talk about finding a way. One of my closer friends, Boog Sadler, he's the youngest head coach in Division I basketball at Nicholls State. He says FITFO very often. Figure it the F out.
Yeah.
So he always told me, you're looking for a small guard, like their FITFO barometer needs to like break the damn measure. It needs to be at an unmatched level. But Phil, thank you for coming on the show. This was exceptional. I think it's going to add a lot of value to whether you're a fan, coach, parent, player, anything. I think this was exceptional. I appreciate your time.
Hey, we got you under contract, baby. Now you're part of our team, whether you like to or not. And it's because of the same reason. You're approaching this stuff with humility. You're approaching it with a mindset to be better, a mindset to be different. So I'm rooting hard for you and all these kids. So thanks for having me.
For sure. I got my wristband on right here, actually. Be better, be different.
There we go, baby.